Welcome back, drawing buddies. This week we're going to draw Power Girl from pencils to inks to colors. So if that sounds like a good way to spend 27 minutes or so, let's draw. Power Girl's first appearance was in All-Star Comics number 58, and she was an alternate reality version of Supergirl. Except Earth 2 is the home of the Golden Age characters. Back then, you had different Earths representing different eras of DC. Earth Zero or Prime Earth or whatever the heck they called it was the current Earth. That's where the current characters lived, and Supergirl Kara Zor-El was from. Earth 2 was the Golden Age characters. So there was an older Superman, an older Batman, the Wildcat, the Alan Scott Green Lantern. They were all there. And in 1976, they decided to reboot the Justice Society and use the All-Star Comics title. And it was a legacy title. And instead of starting with issue number 1, they started with the legacy number. The last issue published in the Golden Age was number 57. So the first new issue to come out in 1976 was issue 58. So Power Girl was basically... her first appearance is in the number 1 of the new All-Star Comics, which is really number 58. So there's a little confusion for you. That happened a lot in comics, actually, back in the Silver Age. Like, they rebooted The Flash in Showcase number 4. Instead of being Jay Garrick with the Mercury helmet and all that fun stuff, the Golden Age Flash, they decided to introduce a new Flash with a more sci-fi origin, which was pretty much why it was called a new age of comics, Silver Age, and not a continuation of the Golden Age. And then when they gave Barry Allen his own book, instead of calling it Flash number 1, they picked up the numbering. So it was Flash 105 as the first issue to feature Barry Allen, not Flash number 1 like you would think. So then you're thinking, oh, well, they should continue that logic in other books. But they didn't. Like Green Lantern, he was originally a Golden Age character named Alan Scott. In the Silver Age, they rebooted him as Hal Jordan with a more sci-fi origin again. And he appeared in Showcase for a few issues like the Flash did. And then when he got his own book, they gave him Green Lantern number 1 in the Silver Age instead of continuing the legacy number, which I'm not sure what it would have been, but let's just say 53. So instead of starting on Green Lantern 54, they started on Green Lantern number 1. So it wasn't a hard, fast rule, but, you know, sometimes they stuck to it, sometimes they didn't. Marvel did similar things, like with Thor in last week's video. Thor started in Journey into Mystery 83, and it stayed Journey into Mystery all the way up to issue 125, and then instead of starting with Thor number 1 as the new book, they just took the Journey into Mystery numbering, so it just became the Mighty Thor with issue 126. So Thor number 1 is technically Thor 126. Same thing with Captain America. I don't know if they continued Captain America's numbering or if they continued a different book's numbering, but instead of being a Captain America number 1 when they finally gave him his own book in 68, 69, I'm not sure what year, it's Captain America number 100. So, yeah, nowadays, you know, they'll any excuse to release a new number 1 book, they'll take it. But back then, it was considered prestigious to have higher numbers and to have a book that was in, you know, 200-300s. It meant it lasted a long time. It meant something. Nowadays, like, whatever. We're just gonna run this like seasons, and every year or two, Spider-Man's gonna get a new one. Daredevil's gonna get a new number 1. Batman even is gonna get a new number 1. Every once in a while, they'll do like a big anniversary issue, and they'll go to the legacy numbering and like Hulk 800 or Action Comics number 1000 or things like that, Detective Comics number 1000. But for the most part, they'll just throw number 1s around because number 1 issues sell, and they sell more than just renumbering from where they left off. So Power Girl, sorry for the long rant on numbering, but it's kind of masking that I don't know a lot about Power Girl. Sorry about that, guys. But back to Power Girl, she's the Earth 2 version of Supergirl. And instead of calling herself Supergirl, she called herself Power Girl because she wanted to differentiate herself from her famous cousin, Superman. And plus, I guess Superman kept her a secret for like 10 years or something in that universe. and she just emerged as a new character when they rebooted the series in 1976. Stan Lee apparently was not a fan of the Power Girl name. Apparently, when they did Wonder Man back in the Avengers, DC got mad and sued them because they had Wonder Woman. So how dare Marvel make a character called Wonder Man? So Marvel had Power Man Luke Cage, and shortly after he debuted, DC comes out with Power Girl, kind of like a grab at the name, so Marvel can't have it. But that kind of stuff happened between Marvel and DC all the time, like Captain Marvel. Marvel created a new Captain Marvel, Mar-Vell. He was, I think, a Kree or a Skrull warrior, and he was very heroic, and he came to his tragic end. He got space cancer, and he died, and it was a whole Death of Captain Marvel prestige issue, and everybody showed up to say goodbye to him. I never read it, but it looks depressing, so I probably won't get in on that bandwagon. But of course, the original Captain Marvel, known as Shazam now, was from the Golden Age. Billy Bastion, had the powers of the different Greek gods. Was it Greek? No, it was the Roman gods or whatever. The power of Zeus and Solomon, the wisdom of Solomon, and Hercules' strength, and all that stuff. But DC, way back when Captain Marvel came out, they ended up suing the crap out of Fawcett, the company that published it, because it was a Superman ripoff, and he was outselling Superman, and you can't have that. So the best way to take care of your competition is to make sure they don't exist anymore. But then in the 70s, Marvel ended up getting the rights to Captain Marvel and started publishing them. I think they were leasing it at first, but then they bought it outright. And they wanted to use the Captain Marvel name, and Marvel's like, no, we got Captain Mar-Vell now, too bad. And DC sued them, and I think DC lost. And the judge decided that since Marvel was named Marvel Comics, they should have the name Captain Marvel, which is weird and doesn't really jive with how that law should have worked as far as everything I read, but that's how it happened. So Marvel and DC are always fighting over names of characters back then. And Power Girl was no exception. Stan Lee was not happy about it because he said, I created Wonder Man and DC sued us, so I'm like, whatever, I just won't use Wonder Man anymore. So for a long time, Marvel didn't use Wonder Man. He's like, then we had Power Man, and they come out with Power Girl. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So Stan was not a fan of that. But anyway, Power Girl became very popular because she was a strong, independent woman. She spoke her mind. She didn't take no crap. And she did what she wanted to do. She was more of an adult than Supergirl. Supergirl was always portrayed as a teenager. And Power Girl made it to Earth in her shuttle when she was in 20 or 21 years old. So she was a little more adult. And plus, when she was sent to Earth from Krypton, her pod was also slower, so she got to Earth later. But her parents included a virtual reality sim, so she wasn't alone and just cryo-slept. She was given a proper Kryptonian education, and she got to know her parents through like virtual versions in the pod and all that fun stuff. So she came out of it a full-grown person. She had an identity already. She didn't have to grow into who she was. And the best story about her, though, is Power Girl's mostly known for the size of her chest, sad but true. And the reason why her chest is so big is because, hold on. The pencils are done. It is now time to ink Power Girl. So the reason Power Girl is so well endowed is because at the time the inker, Wally Wood, he felt really unappreciated in the comics world. He was just basically doing it to get paid, but he was completely disillusioned with the idea of comics. And that mostly stems from his run on Daredevil, which I will talk about in this, even though I don't have to because it's about Power Girl. But he was feeling unappreciated, and nobody really took a look at what he was doing, and he was the inker on Justice Society and a co-creator of Power Girl. So he decided that every issue he was going to make her chest bigger until somebody noticed, because he was convinced that nobody would. And it actually took, I think, 7 or 8 issues for an editor to say, why is her chest getting so big? Every issue she's got bigger. She's more endowed. And so once they finally noticed that the 7th or 8th issue she was published in, so that would be 60-something, 65 or so of All-Star Comics, that's where her chest stayed. And so that's why her endowments are so large, because Wally just kept making them bigger until somebody noticed and told them to cut it out. I knew Power Girl mostly from Justice League. I believe it was Justice League Europe back in the day, because I used to read all the Justice League books, and Justice League Europe was actually one of my favorite ones. And she was featured in there, but back in there, her origin, she was considered to be an Eletian, or whatever you would call someone from Atlantis, because after the crisis on Infinite Earths, they decided Superman should be the only surviving Kryptonian. So Supergirl wasn't really a problem, because she died in Crisis on Infinite Earths to save the multiverse, well, to save, any part of the multiverse, because the Anti-Monitor was eating all of them. But Power Girl still stuck around. But the weird thing is, they said she was Eletian, and she was kept in stasis by her great-grandfather, grandfather, who was a wizard from Atlantis, and he kept her in suspended animation for like 45,000 years, and for some reason he implanted memories into her that she was Kryptonian, but she technically was an Eletian, and it's a big confusing mess, and eventually they just said screw it, and they went back to the old ways back in 2005 on Infinite Crisis, and I did read that, but I didn't read all the crossovers, so I don't know exactly what happened with Power Girl back then. I never actually read her books. Although I guess they did a weird, well, actually it was in the Justice League Europe thing, where because Green Lantern Hal Jordan was part of it, and they had a weird pregnancy thing with her, where she got pregnant, and it was really a mystically induced pregnancy by her great-grandfather, because he needed to create some character to fight a Eletian demon, and I know I'm saying that wrong, so I apologize. And after he made his appearance, it was one and done. But for a while, Power Girl and Hal Jordan thought it was his kid, because they had a little session underneath one of his constructs during a battle once, where they both thought they were going to die. And then she got pregnant, and I don't even think that's canon anymore that she had that kid, so we'll just pretend it never happened too, because it's really, really weird. And the reason I drew Power Girl, I don't think I got to this yet, is because I wanted to draw Supergirl again, because for some reason I want to revisit things that I drew already. I'm looking at things and I'm like, oh, I like my old drawings, but I want to draw this character this way instead of that way. And I'm like, but there's a Supergirl movie coming out this summer. So during the summer, in late June and July, I'm going to do like another Superman. I'm going to draw Lobo. I'm going to draw Supergirl again, so I can't draw Supergirl again. I'm going to draw a Black Widow, but I just wasn't feeling her when I drew this. And I'm like, you know what? Power Girl is awesome. I'm going to draw Power Girl. And then I'm like, I don't know anything about Power Girl, except for the brief things that I read in Justice League Europe back in the 90s. So I barely remember any of that. But I love this drawing. It's one of the my favorite drawings that I've done of a woman character so far. It's just a nice, simple side shot, but it shows you exactly who Power Girl is. It's really well drawn. I mean, her face, if I could draw women's faces like this all the time, I'd be working for Marvel or DC. I'd be happy. So I've learned a lot in this video. I made her glove nice and loose, because that just seems to be everybody draws it, but I think it looks cool. And I also am on this thing with capes. I want to draw people wearing capes, and Power Girl is a woman who has a cape, and she's not Supergirl, so that's where she comes from. I'm also going to draw Wonder Woman soon too, Wonder Woman and Black Widow. So those are coming up as far as women characters go. But I also drew my Scud drawing for, I don't know if I'm going to do that one on my birthday or for the anniversary, because I'm also started drawing the Rocketeer. I think that's going to be the anniversary video, because those are two of my favorite non-Marvel DC characters, and I probably like them more than I like the Marvel DC characters, with a few exceptions. So I don't know if anybody will watch a Rocketeer video. Oh, the inking is done. It's time to color Power Girl. This is actually the longest part of the video, the coloring, because I added a bunch of levels of shading. I didn't just do one or two. I think I did 3 or 4 in some places, because she's just wearing a white costume, and I wanted that to not just be flat and white, so I went all in on this one. And I don't know why. It might be the new year, it might be new algorithms. I think I mentioned this in the Thor video. It just might be because this style of video isn't popular, even though I'm not quitting. My views and my likes and my subscriber count is way down. I went from getting between 120 and 60 something subscribers a month. It's down to 23 right now. It's like, oh, that hurts. Because I was hoping to be at 1,000 by the anniversary. Because I think that's a cool, it's an important number to hit on YouTube. And I was on track to hit it. And then the new year comes and just everything downhill. Although yesterday I did have a really good day on shorts. So hopefully that translates. And plus, I'm not sure if doing the 2 video things a week is a good idea because they're cannibalizing each other's numbers. But at the same time, everything I read says more is better, and I could definitely get 2 videos done with the quick draws and the long video, so I'm sticking to that too. Next week will either be Daredevil or, shoot, I don't remember what the other one I drew was. But yeah, there'll be another short one. I got 2 more of those in the books. I could draw 4 of those a day. That's what I did with the last set, so. And I enjoy the quick draws. They're a lot of fun. And the next 2 will be a Chibi Daredevil. He's actually in a cityscape, kind of. And the Fairly Odd Parents, which were really interesting for me to draw. I don't know if I nailed Timmy's body right, but I got the faces on, and Wanda and Cosmo look cool as heck, so. The quick draws are going to be kind of chibi versions of superheroes, and it's also going to be cartoon characters, either from when I was a kid or stuff I watched with my son, like the Fairly Odd Parents and Invader Zim, or Calvin and Hobbes, because I grew up reading Calvin and Hobbes. And they're fun to talk about, and they're really quick to draw because, cartoons are much simpler shapes, and you don't have to get all into the colors as much. So, Power Girl, her alter ego was originally Karen Starr, and she was a software developer, kind of like a mogul. She owned her own company. I believe it was called Star Tech or Star Software, Starware, whatever. And she was successful, and she did her thing, and that's who she was. And that's who she was since like 1976 up until current. But they dropped that part of her life, I guess. And Jonathan Kent, Superboy, the new Superboy, he gave her a new name, and her name is now Paige. Because Power Girl, PG, Paige, you're starting fresh, you have a new life. So they're calling her Paige Stetler now. And she's kind of closer to the super family of our Earth now instead of Earth 2. And apparently she's a little jealous of Supergirl, which she never was, because, they were their own unique people from their own unique worlds and had their own unique lives. And now she feels like she's always being compared to her for some reason. And she works at the Daily Planet as a reporter. So, I don't know if that's a step back or a step forward, because I never really read Power Girl, so I never got too into her. But if you do read Power Girl, what are your opinions on her name change and change in demeanor and everything, and her being less of a, independent, powerful girl and more trying to fit in with the super family? I am probably going to eventually pick up some Power Girl comics because now I'm curious and I want to know for myself. But I want to know what your opinions are, so let me know in the comments. I should do one of those quiz things, but I probably won't because I don't understand how that works. And I had some personal things going on, so I'm doing this video the night before it's due. So I hate doing that, by the way, but it will be out on time because I am not missing an upload, especially so close to my anniversary. And you guys are stuck with me for a long time because I am doing these videos until they either hit or I just can't physically do them anymore. And that's not going to happen for a long, long time. And Power Girl, she had the boob window. She didn't have the boob window. I think now the boob window is kind of like shaped like Superman's symbol because she's trying to get closer to the super family and be a part of that world. But it used to just be a circle. And then in the Justice League comics I read, instead of the window, it was more of a V-cut. Because Keith Giffen objectified her a lot in that series. The Flash was always hitting on her, and people are always hitting on her and asking her what's up with showing off all the cleavage and the short, the shorts and the legs exposed and all that stuff. She's like, hey, man, if guys want to degrade themselves by looking at me, fine, but I'm not changing who I am for them. And that was cool. But I guess Wally was kind of a real jerk to her, and villains are always hitting on her and commenting on the way she looked. But there's a lot more to Power Girl than that. She is, she is the definition of a strong, powerful woman. I mean, she's a Kryptonian, so, there aren't many guys out there who can defeat her in battle. And, sometimes she's depicted as a bit of a hothead and an act first and question things later. Like they'll be like, hey, we gotta handle this finesse. She's like, screw that, I'm punching my way out of it. And that's just who she's been. So hopefully she continues to be that kind of a character, because, why would you change that? I tried watching some YouTube videos about Power Girl and her origins and all that stuff, and surprisingly there isn't much out there. I should have just read this wiki that I brought up. It seems to have all of it. But that Casually Comics, Sasha, I think her name is, she definitely likes Power Girl, so she did a few videos, so those were helpful. So thank you, Sasha, from Casually Comics. Go watch all her videos on Power Girl. And there's a couple other ones I watched, but there were a few things that I had questions about, and I just couldn't find the answers in YouTube videos, and I didn't know what comics to read. But like I said, I just pulled up her wiki before, because I forgot the issue of All-Star Comics started with, and if Wally Wood was the inker or the penciler. Because the videos they mentioned him as a creator and disgruntled, and I always thought he was the inker, and I was right, he was the inker, but for some reason they made me question that, and I thought he might have been the penciler, so I had to look that up. So finding information on Power Girl was not easy. I figured there'd be tons of videos on her because she's really popular, but I guess she's not as popular as I thought, or she is popular and just people don't do videos on her for whatever reason. I have no idea, but I'm doing one on her, and I hope you all stick around and watch the whole thing, especially because hours matter in the YouTube game, and retention is important. So if you got this far, stick around to the end. We're more than 2/3 of the way there anyway. Plus, this drawing came out really cool, so you should want to see the finished version, even though it's going to be up in the corner behind the monkey. So let's get back to Wally Wood. Wally Wood is probably one of the all-time great comic artists who kind of gets a snub. He should be mentioned in the same breath as Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and John Romita. But he ended up being more of a footnote, mostly because of his own insecurities and basically because he never had a problem standing up for himself. And in an industry that's based on doing what you're told back in the days, it didn't fare well. He was one of the most renowned artists back in the pre-Hero days, and in Marvel, he finally got his big shot drawing Daredevil. He started on issue 5, I believe, and he's the reason Daredevil's in the red costume. He changed it from the yellow and black, or yellow and red, however you want to interpret it, into the red. He drew that issue. He designed the costume. He also changed the D from one big D on Daredevil's chest to 2 small Ds for Daredevil. And back in the day, and I talked about this in the Thor video, they worked in the Marvel style, which meant Stan Lee or whoever's writing the book, they would basically just write out a quick page. Okay, in this issue of Daredevil, the Submariner shows up, they fight, Daredevil's outmatched, eventually Submariner decides to leave because he respects Daredevil trying to save everything, the end. And the penciler would have to take that, and he would have to say, okay, I got to turn this into a whole story. So the penciler would have to pretty much write the whole book based on that synopsis and drag it out into the 22, 21 pages, whatever comics were back then. And Wally, he's like, I'm doing all this work. I am writing just as much of the book as Stan Lee is, if not more. I'm setting the pacing. I'm deciding what the things look like. I'm deciding where things go. I'm doing the story beats. All he did was give me a brief outline of what he wants to happen in the book. And he felt really unappreciated. And eventually he quit because he's like, they're not paying me to write a book. They're paying me to draw a book. And I'm doing all this extra work basically for nothing. And, Stan's getting all the glory. Screw that. I'm not dealing with it. So he quit Daredevil. And I think because of that, he didn't really work for Marvel again or for a long time. And he just worked sporadically after that. I think he was actually from Connecticut, lived in Connecticut when he died, because I went to buy some comics off a guy, a really cool older guy, well, older than me. I'm kind of not that young anymore. And I guess he knew Wally Wood. He worked with him for a while, and it was cool sitting around talking to that guy and looking through his comics. It was a lot of fun. I ended up buying the first appearance of Brother Voodoo from him, in case you're wondering. Man, I missed a lot in editing this video, so I am sorry about that. But I don't have time to go and take it all out, because I think Wally Wood ended up unaliving himself, which is really sad. And he kind of ended in obscurity, although he did a lot for the comics industry. Like, there's a thing called 22 Panels That Always Work by Wally Wood, and I am going to print out a really large copy of that and hang it up in my over my drafting table, because I want to start working on a comic, even though I have no idea what it's going to be about because I'm not a writer. So I think I'm just going to do quick 8-page things and stuff and bring them all together. But I'm going to make a poster-sized copy of the 22 Panels That Work by Wally Wood, and I am going to hang it up in there. And if you want to draw comics and you're enjoying this, and you should look that up. 22 comics panels that always work. Because if you're stuck and you don't know what to do on a panel or something, you just say, what would Wally do? And there's 22 versions of what he would do, and they always work. Every artist I've ever known had a copy of that. And I had a copy of it for the longest time, but got lost during moves, and I will have it again. So go out and read some Wally Wood. He did a lot for the industry, and he should be more well known than he is. I have a little hardcover book that I bought at a comic show, and it's all comic strips he did during the war, and they're all awesome. So yeah, Wally Wood, check him out. And as for Power Girl, do what I'm gonna do. Go out and read some Power Girl books and learn more about her, because there's more to her than a boob window and a white suit. She is pretty badass. So anyway, Power Girl's done. Thanks for joining me for 27 minutes. Like and subscribe and all that fun jazz. And go out and draw something. Have a great week.